What's up, everyone? Thank you once again, and welcome to another segment of the Power Couples podcast. And similar to the previous episode, I've got yet another special guest, a good brother of mine, Amukelane Bvuma, who will be joining us as we tackle yet another male-specific topic. How you doing, man? Are you good?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Excellent.
So guys, as you can see, the gentlemen have taken over. My wife is still on an extended leave of absence. And today we're tackling yet another topic that is very close to my heart. So last week we spoke about fixing the seed. And today I'm sure you've heard a lot being said about a woman's worth. So today we just want to talk about a man's worth and how you actually value yourself as a man. So Amukelane, I have to ask you the question. How do you value yourself as a man?
I think I value myself highly. If I have to walk into a room and there's an important person, I always put myself at the top of the most important people in the room. So that's how much I value myself. And I understand my significance as a man, that there is a God-given role that I need to play in society. I'm not just only a man in the community. I'm a man in my own house and at church and in the community at large. So I must always make sure that my value is seen.
You see, exactly. That's exactly what I was hoping you would touch on. Now, when you're talking about being a man in your house, right? Do you feel that there is a disconnect, if ever, between how you value yourself as a man versus how your wife perceives your value as a man? Because there's a difference between value and perceived value, you know. And I think by and large, the latter, the perceived value, is also a product of societal influences. So in your regard, and zoning into your own household, for lack of a better word, do you feel that there's a correlation between how you value yourself versus how your wife perceives your value or how she values you?
So maybe let's start when I met her, and more especially when we got married. So she had a certain value system and she had a certain point of reference when it comes to the value of men, because firstly, she comes from a house where there is a man. So how she related with men and how she valued men was different when she got into the marriage and what it is now, right? So she had a certain value system that shifted over time. Her value system has been shown in many actions. So yes, I can say there was a little misalignment in terms of the value system. However, when we started staying together as husband and wife, we crafted our own value system, and her mind shifted, and I could see how she changed and how she values me now as opposed to then.
Yeah. Wow. That's a very powerful point that you mentioned. And the fact that you had to craft your own value system within your family. And the reason why I was asking this, I feel that society has sort of misdirected the value that is attached to men, or misplaced it rather, and I think as well we sort of perpetuate that as men ourselves, where we sort of determine our worth by our wealth, you know. Okay. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. If whenever we get together as men, right, instead of, and let's say I'm meeting you for the first time, right, instead of asking or being more interested in who you are, we always ask questions like, what do you do? You know, those kind of things. And where we sort of almost value ourselves against what we do as opposed to who we are. Exactly. And what we have as opposed to who we are, which sort of perpetuates that stigma. And I'm actually happy that you've mentioned that fact, that, you know, you guys had to reconstruct the value system in your family. But now, while we're still on that point, right, within your family, and even if you are to take it into society at large, if it's not specific to your family, do you feel that a man's position should be determined, or in fact, do you feel that a man's ability to provide determines his position, or his position is determined by his provision?
No. In my view, it does not determine your position and your worth as a man if you provide more. However, society has taught us that how much money you have will determine how your worth is in society, in your family. However, if we can go back, so this is how I think about my life as a man and as a human being. I came to this life naked, poor, without any possession. And if I miss the mark and start attaching my worth with things that I found on earth, with things that are outside of myself as a man, then I am losing it, because the definition now shifts. It becomes Amu Ola Adrivang Benz. Amu Ola Adulang in a mansion. Remember, life can take you through seasons.
Correct.
You should be able to find a definition without your possession. So how I would like to be viewed, and how I would wish society can shift and be known for the things that money cannot buy. Be known for the Kamukhelo that loved his wife. Be known for the Kamukhelo that loved his family, that contributed in society. Because wealth comes and goes. What if it goes? What are you going to define yourself by? You know, then you lose the sense of self. So how society has shifted and started attaching these things has created a sort of a stereotype, how people view things, how people relate with one another. I come close to you because I want to benefit something. And that is one thing that I'm very cautious about. When I walk into a room, especially men, because we are, by design, we are more masculine. We are more, everything we want big things. We want big car, big bank account, big a house, and all that stuff. But what if you have these things and tomorrow you don't? How are you going to define yourself? Who are you going to say you are? If you are called Amua V class, what if that V class is not more and you can't afford it? And the ability for you to provide gets chopped off by a second. You know? So I think we need to define ourselves. And the first definition that we can sort of reference to, let us reference to what God says we are. You know, because we cannot exist out of God's will.
That's powerful. And as you were going through the list of big things that we want, there's a fourth one that I thought you would call out, but we won't go there.
Okay.
We'll come back to the discussion. Anyway, so, you know, there's two nuggets that I'm getting from what you've said. So the first one is our wealth does not determine our worth, and provision does not determine your position as a man. And you touched on something very critical, and it's close to my heart as well, in terms of realigning the understanding that men in particular have in as far as it relates to their position as a provider. Because to your point, it should not be attached to money. You know, I believe, and you've mentioned that we should go back to what or how God views us, and if we take it in reference to that, I believe that even in the absence of money, you should still be a provider as a husband and as a leader and as a man, and you can provide love, as you mentioned, provide leadership, provide security. You know, there's so many aspects, and I think we've been very one-dimensional in terms of how we view a provision, and I think it's also by and large a stereotype that we need to correct within the African community, and I'll call it African community. And why I'm saying that is that I've seen it even in my own family, where the voices of those that have deep pockets are often heard the loudest versus someone that might have other contributions to make, but because their pockets are not necessarily as deep, we tend to overlook.
Exactly. And you know, that devalues other people. It devalues the other voices that are supposed to be heard, and they have something of substance that should have been heard. But because society has now shifted and see pockets and and fleshy things or material things, we often not hear what we're supposed to hear. Because we're looking at, you can't tell me anything because you can't buy us lunch. And it shouldn't be like that in society.
No, very true. That's powerful. And I'm going to get a bit personal as we wrap up, if you would allow me.
All right.
So speaking of your provision or your ability to provide not determining or deterring your position, there's also this thing of a man's pride, right?
Okay.
And I'll give reference. For example, there are certain things that we always tell ourselves as men that, this is below my standard, I would never do this. And I'll give you an example of a mentor of mine. He just doesn't know it yet, TD Jakes, who says that there was a point where he was still establishing himself, but he was a pastor and quite a well-known person in community.
Okay.
But because he didn't want to rely on the church, he had to do his own things on the side to put food on the table, whatever it takes. And he says there was a point where he was actually mowing people's lawn. He started a garden service, and TD Jakes, the pastor, during the week would be pushing lawnmowers around,
Mm-hmm.
And that to him, he placed, what had to be done at the forefront, as opposed to looking at his own level of pride, and if I can call it insignificant pride as well.
Okay.
And I know you've went through a certain point in your life as well, where being a qualified lawyer, etc., but you were in between jobs, if I can call it that. Was there ever a time where you said, you know what, there's certain things that I would never do, just for the sake of upholding my pride as a man?
So, firstly, how I view myself is that I am a son, I am a father, I am a brother before I am a lawyer, right? And at that time, when the time that you referenced where I was unemployed, my provision ability was cut overnight. So this is what happened. I went to work and I was sort of nicely fired. I was told, we don't need you, go home. And if you are the director of a company and you say that, that's it, right? And I had to think about, what is it that I'm going to do? I can't just sleep. I can't just wake up and say it's over. And in that period, I don't think it's appropriate for me to say I swallowed my pride, because I do not consider myself a proud person.
Yeah.
Provision cannot be negated. It cannot be overlooked. As a man in a family, I needed to find ways in which I can tend for my family. One, very soon I started talking to people, and I said to people, I'm not working now. Do you have anything? Can I draft you a legal agreement? Can I do something? Can I help you drop off someone? You put petrol in my car, or give me 200 Rand or whatever, And that was a very beautiful space for me as an individual. I had to learn a lot of things. I spoke to our caretaker where I stay, and I said, I am not working. Is there anything that I can do? If you hear anyone needing anything, I am ready. I painted someone's house. I started letting people's properties, which I do now as a side hustle, People would regard me as an admitted attorney. And for me, first thing is, I am a provider. I am supposed to be a father. And I must do anything in my power in order to put bread on the table, whatever it is. So if I had to paint someone's house, drop off kids at school or whatever, just so that we can have something to eat, I would do it. And that space clearly showed me that life can change overnight. And when it changes, you must, if you have pride, you must forsake pride in order for you to move forward. And it taught me that it was just a season in my life that I had to go through. There was something that I had to learn that I think now I have learned. I had to learn how to be humble. I have to learn how I should define myself. I don't walk into a room and I say, hi, I'm a lawyer. Hi, I'm Amukelani. I'm a father to one girl. I'm a husband to this woman. Before you know what I do, so that when you view me, you don't view me as
Yeah.
my profession. My
Yeah.
profession is but just one aspect of my life.
Wow.
So if we took, imagine an advocate who makes maybe 45,000 an hour. You do something and you are disbarred. And you have to go home and there's no one or nothing that comes through for you. Would you still hold on to that title?
Yeah.
Will that title bring food to the table?
Yeah.
You know? So I had to learn it very quickly that I have to do anything in order for us to have something to eat. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful, you know, and I think you've really shared a lot. And just on my side, in parting, what I'm picking up from this, and thank you for opening up, is we should never allow our wealth to determine our worth, and we should not be one-dimensional in defining what actually wealth is, because it's an all-encompassing concept. You know, it's not limited to material things. And I think one thing that I'm picking up is humility is of paramount importance as a father, as a leader, and even it's biblical. You know, the Bible says that pride comes before destruction, or before destruction comes pride. You know, and I think if we keep to that false sense of pride, we're actually doing it at the demise of our own families, you know, if I can call it that. Any parting thoughts on your side before we wrap this up?
Yeah, there's many things that are running through my mind, but one thing is that people should remember that scripture that says, do not be unequally yoked. Because when you go into relationships, you need to have a person with a right set of mind, a mind that can stand the test of time. And the reason why I'm saying that is that through my down moments, I was able to see the type of woman that I'm married to. Because that was a testing stage. A lot of people would ask her, but how are you getting through? Who's paying what? And never once in that space had my wife complained about anything. She was actually ready. When we went into that zone, she was like, what is it that we can shift around? I said, you know what, just wait. I have a plan. And this is my plan. And should I need anything, I will call out for help. And it is also important that women should also unlearn what they have been taught. That all you bring into a relationship is your makeup bag. You must be able to provide, because say I'm an engineer and something happens, my hands are cut off. If we both provide, it is easier to go ahead with life, to carry on with the family. We can take our kids to school because we both have the earning capacity. And if a man's capacity to earn is sort of distracted or cut, his worth should never diminish in the house.
Wow.
And if a man maybe loses his job or his business, the mother should still instill in the children that this is the man of the house.
Yeah.
He's not his job.
Yeah.
He's your father.
Yeah.
Appreciate the fact that he loves you. He takes you to school. He does the small things, you know? And in that way, we allow ourselves to go through seasons, and we will be ready to support each other. When one pillar is down, let the other one stand. So that's my parting shot.
Wow, that's powerful. So, gentlemen, I think we've said a mouthful. This is obviously a topic that we cannot exhaust, but I think definitely next year's men's conference, this should be one of the discussions. But one thing on my side in parting as well, because fathers have abdicated their throne due to a lack of provision. And I think one thing that we need to understand, gentlemen, is that your presence, gifts they are passing, you know, they pass. children will always forget presence, but your presence is eternal. You know, so don't in any way feel that you do not have a place in your family, a place in society, simply because you are incapacitated of material provision. You know, and I'm saying this quite explicitly around the material aspect, because I think more often than not we've really devalued our men simply because we've got a misunderstanding of what it takes to be a provider. So I think it's time that we rise up to the occasion as men as well. And I think as gents, we also need to have these courageous conversations. We cannot leave it to the media to address topics that we should be addressing ourselves. So please do share your comments. Do provide feedback. If you've got any stories that you want to share in keeping with what we have discussed, please by all means do so. As you know, our social media handles at @powercouples_movement. Do follow us, and please, we really appreciate the feedback. And again, if you have not subscribed, there is no TV license applicable, so please just subscribe, and as they always say, hit the notification bell. Cheers, guys.